now, and I went to Conservatoire where I studied orchestral percussion. I learned a lot of things there, but something I never really studied was how to practice, which is kind of weird because I was doing it for 8 hours a day. I realised that a lot of students are doing is practicing often for hours and hours, but not necessarily getting any better because they've never learned how to practice. So whether you're a handpan player, percussionist, any kind of instrumentalist, or honestly trying to get better at anything, this might be helpful because I've broken it down into a few stages. With a little bit of practicing, you'll be able to get better at anything, even in quite a short space of time. I think the first mistake a lot of players make is playing too much, which might seem counterintuitive, but you've just got your lovely new instrument or your lovely new hobby. Of course you want to do it all of the hours that you can. But if you're not used to it, certainly you're not used to playing an instrument, soon you'll start to develop injuries and start to feel quite tired. Tendinitis, RSI and arm pains are super common in musicians. I always tell my students not to practice more than an hour a day. Certainly not more than an hour in one sitting while they're getting going. Half an hour breaks are ideal. Stand up, have a little stretch your arms out and come back to it. If you can do 2 lots of half an hour a day, you are going to go so much further. And the worst thing that a lot of students do, I was guilty of it too when I was a student, is not practicing all week and then trying to cram in 3 hours worth of practice, 20 minutes worth of practice just before the lesson. 10 minutes a day is going to see you getting so much better so quickly. So try and make time, build it into your ritual, do 10-20 minutes in little blocks. I find having my instruments out is a really useful way to help me be able to practice it. Try and make sure you're doing lots of little practices rather than any big sessions. Of course, sometimes we do have to practice for quite a long time, certainly if you've got a gig or something coming up. And that takes time to build up to that amount of practice. Firstly, do half an hour sessions, then do 2 lots of 1 hour sessions with a stretch and a gap in the middle, then 3 hour sessions, but I really can't imagine being able to focus for more than a few hours at a time. So, reward yourself, go on little walks, have little drink breaks, all of those good things apply. When it comes to practicing, remember, it's not just about playing. You need to break your routine down into these stages. The absolute first thing you must do is warm up. Even if you are going to play for a few minutes, dedicate 30 seconds to that warm up. Get the blood pumping around your body a little bit, a couple of star jumps, getting the fingers going. Whatever you're doing, you can just set yourself up, ready to go. You wouldn't just go out for a run without warming yourself up or preparing your body in any way. And you've got to remember that playing a musical instrument is sport, it's exercise. So you've got to make sure that you had a little warm up, a little bit of a stretch, and you're ready to go. Firstly, there is technical exercises. This is where you get your metronome out. If you don't have a metronome, get a metronome. Or you can Google the word metronome and find it. That's just that click that you're playing along to. Starting to do that is going to get your timing going from out here in wishy-washy land really strong and concise. So whatever I'm doing for a technical exercise, I normally have a metronome on. Sometimes I set the metronome really slowly, so I've got to count a load of beats in between, or really fast, so I'm playing super precise. This is where you get your scales in, your rudiments, your paradiddles, all of those exercises where you're tuning in with the instrument. I like to start my technical section just trying to play along with a click. Set it at a random tempo and just try and really align each of my hits with the sound of the click. It's a really nice way to get zoned in to the sound of the instrument as well. You always want to listen to the sound that you're making. It sounds obvious, but if you're not tuned in to the sound that you're making, you'll realise you're getting some dud sounds out. You can always get that even better, so improving your intonation, listening in, that's the moment to really focus in on the sounds and get that the best that you can. With all these technical exercises, start off with stuff that you can do and move through into things that are challenging to you. The next thing that practice should be is recapping. So if you did a concert last week, you don't just want to forget all of that music. You want to recap it, keep it fresh and current in your mind. So make sure you're always going back through songs you've already written, things that you like playing, even exercises that you like doing. There should be a section on recapping things that have already happened. Then, perhaps the bulk of the section is repertoire. So this is pieces, creating pieces, learning new exercises, learning new fills. This is where you build up the bank of things inside of your mind. And this is what most people think of when they do practice. Most people often just do this section. It's only an element of it. And once you've prepared yourself with your warm-up and your recap, that means that your brain is even more ready to learn new repertoire and fresh information. This is where you're really stretching yourself, you're working on things that you can't do yet and you're developing that. That could be anything. That could be playing chords from a song. That could be sight reading some sheet music. That could be watching another player and trying to emulate their work. Or it could be just thinking things out of your own brain. But it's creating and perfecting information. So this is where you need to have that critical mind on again. How can I improve? Don't go back to the beginning and play the whole piece again. Just play a few sections. Again, get your metronome out, starting to really play it slower. If you can't get it, play it slower. If you can't get it, play it slower than that. If you still can't get it, play it slower than that. This is where we get to do things like singing and clapping and clicking to work out the rhythms of sections, really embedding it into our minds in all different ways. It's never just playing that piece straight through from start to finish. You will get bored and tired and so bored. People often get put off because they're playing music that's too hard. If you've been working on the same thing for weeks, ditch it. Try something different. I was playing a Ruhr piece the other day. I couldn't get it, so I started with something a bit easier. You're always learning. When you complete a song, not that you'll ever think it's finished, but when you're done with working on that song, you've gained so many skills, and you're ready to move on to something. You don't want to be making these massive leaps. Everything should be incrementally harder. You want to be able to make progress in a couple of practice sessions. If you can't make progress, and you've tried it a lot slower, and you've tried asking a mate for a bit of help, choose something a bit easier for now. There's no point labouring over something. The final section, which a lot of classical musicians forget, is something unconnected to your work. So if you've got a jazz gig coming up, play a little bit of classical music. If you've got a classical gig coming up, play a bit of pop. If you've got a gig of your own music coming up, play some covers. I think it's really important to keep diversifying. So for me, often I will just put on a drum beat and noodle around. This is kind of the most important section because it reconnects us to our love. The reason that we come to these instruments and enjoy playing them is because there's something really joyful, and it can be easy to get bogged down in the technical sections. But I think that technical ability allows you to do the things that are in your mind. Whether it's 2 minutes at the start of your practice or 10 minutes at the end, make sure you do something that has nothing to do with anything else. This is just practice. I haven't covered any kind of songwriting, or obviously you'll be listening to other people playing all the time as well. But musical appreciation and musical creation are different sections again. This is when you're sitting down with your instrument. Finally, sometimes I like to finish with a bit of an endurance or a speed blaster. So all of the stuff up till there is about getting a beautiful sound, working well, and being quite musical. But sometimes you do just need to practice playing fast. So set your metronome at whatever speed you're working on the exercise. Do it for 30 seconds, 5 BPM faster, 5 BPM faster, 5 BPM faster, until you get to the point that you really can't. You've got a little bit of warmth down the forearms, not pain, but a little bit of warmth. And I sometimes like to end with that because if I do it at the start of the practice, the rest of the practice is a bit tougher. But sometimes it's nice to drop in a little bit of, get a bit of a sweat on by going quite fast or playing a little bit more towards the end. But I would say that's kind of a really nice session plan. Now the ratios that you do it are completely up to you. If I have a gig tomorrow, I'm really going to be focused on the repertoire for that. But if I've learned a new samba groove, I might be doing a lot of technical work on that kind of idea. So the ratios are totally up to you. I find it's really useful every practice session, or at the end of the week, to look back on the sessions you've done and check that you're getting a good balance of all of those elements. Because if you're too weighted one way or another, it'll start to hold you back. Let me know if you've got any questions as to the way I practice. I'd love to hear your comments. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for a new video every week.